All right. So now I get to crack open this transaxle off of this Kubota GR2100. I'll crack it open and take a look and see what all is damaged. This is going to be pretty interesting. But now, as I start to rebuild it, I'm going to have to refer to two separate manuals. One of them is the instruction manual that came with the transmission rebuild kit, and it refers back and forth to the workshop manual. So it'll take a little time. I'm going to take my time at it and do this right, and I'm going to try to have it organized somehow so that I'm going to put the old and the new case side by side so that, as I take parts off that I reuse, I can put them directly on to the new case. And there's some pre-assembly that they're recommending, but there's quite a few components that are being replaced. There's a few of the gears, gear shafts, bushings, bearings, oil seals, you name it. I mean, there's a lot to replace, but a lot of it is being reused, so I want to inspect everything and make sure that I'm going to put it in undamaged. Anyway, so this will take me a while, and hopefully the video won't be too long, because I do want to put this thing back together, and hopefully by the time I'm through with this, the parts that I ordered will come in and I'll be able to do the final assembly for this tractor. So alright, well, here we go. Alright, I've been cleaning this thing up a little bit. You see, before I finish taking everything off and cracking this thing open, I wanted to get it a little bit cleaner, but I also want to take a first look. So this is the official rebuild kit. So we got a bag of stuff. Okay, so there's a bunch of bearings, gaskets, seals. Wow, even pulleys, gears. Came with a lot of stuff. And then here's the case. Got a complete case. For some reason I was thinking only half of it was there. But so you see, here's the bottom of the case, and here's the top. And that's a hell of a casting, isn't it? Pretty nice, pretty nice. Okay, instruction manual, there's the parts list. Another parts list, or is that an addendum? Alright, so it gives us some diagrams to take a look at. Okay, disassembling the transmission. Removing transmission, that's what we did on part 1 of my video. So, and disassembling, okay, that's saying included in the workshop manual also. Cleaning component parts. Assembly. Working on the frame, so we're going to have to modify the framework a little bit. Elongating 2 of the holes. Alright. Okay, not bad. So between this and the workshop manual, we've got it covered. So I just need to finish disassembling that puppy there. Alright, for final disassembly, I am going to take this suction pipe off, because it goes around back into the pump up here. Take that off. I'm going to take the brake off. I'm going to take the, I believe this is the hydrostatic unit up here. I'll be taking basically the back end of this off, right? I'll start with that, the brake and the hydrostatic. Then I'll flip it around and take these pieces off, but we'll see. first off. Now these I had already loosened up when I had drained all the fluid out of it. So this is probably going to get pretty messy. And I'll take this side of it off. Let me show you what I'm doing. Right up here. I'll take this off. I had already taken it off of this side. That is still all hanging right there. So I'll take that off. I'll get this pipe out of the way. There's that piece. Make sure there's no. And don't forget the filter here. That little mesh filter. I'll pop that out before I get the other piece out. There's the drum. That was kind of hard to get out. Looks like there was a some little burrs. So there's the brake, there's the drum, there's the pads, you can see. So I'll be cleaning that all up before I reassemble everything. I'll start with these two and this one. Alright, so there's got to be more than just these 3 bolts. These are going nowhere. There's empty. Here's a rib. So there's a bolt on this side and a bolt down here. Okay, so there's 2 bolts on the opposite side of the case. Let's see, is that it? I'm just trying to inspect everything while I take it off. So everything here looks okay. The gears are in great shape. Splines are in good shape. Okay, so that is done. What about this? I think I'm going to yeah, there we go. That goes in there. So I can keep all that at one piece. And set this whole thing aside. And I still see a lot of fluid when I'm looking down here, so apparently whenever I drained it, it didn't drain it all out. There's still quite a bit on that level. Let me see if I can drain some more of that out before we go any further. Alright, so I drained quite a bit more out of there.
Some of this stuff I know I'm going to have to take off. There's that little pipe. Which goes in there. And we'll probably have to come back and take this hose off. I'll do that in a second. I think everything else is on the other side. So there we go. I'm going to start with taking off this pump, setting it aside. Now for the PTO, we'll take all this off as one piece, take it out. I'm going to turn it up on its side and see if I can take everything out at once. You can see the clutch pack's trying to come out of there too. Bearing here, but we'll get that. We'll get that out once we get this thing turned over and crack it open. What else? I guess everything down here on the bottom we can take off and we'll be able to crack this case open. I just didn't want to mess with the PTO. From my knowledge, the PTO is good, right? They didn't have any problem with it. The problems they said they were having, well, it ended up being that that output to the front. But anyway, let me put this somewhere for safekeeping, and then we'll finish off taking this stuff off. Well, that doesn't sound good at all, does it? This side sounds okay, but it's all gritty on this side. Alright, so everything is off, and I'm going to do a little pre-assembly. And put all this back the way it was, just so I don't forget. Alright, so I'm going to do this same thing on the other side and get all this stuff cleaned up a little bit. going to see if I can loosen it all the way around. And I don't know why I'm trying to be tender with it. I mean, it's not going to be reused, right? So let me get a there we go. So this is one of the gears. It's going to be replaced. This one. Wow, it's almost frozen there. This one and this one. Then of course a bunch of the bearings, bushings, oil seals, and all that stuff. Yeah, look at all that. A lot of metal shavings down here. So where's that coming off of? This side always had the grit and grind to it, and I guess it's because of that. Yeah, that whole thing. Look at that. Look how loose that is. So this bearing is shot. You can see the ball bearings are gone. And I guess they got all chewed up here too. That bearing's gone. Hopefully, I'll have to look and see. No, that's right. This whole shaft is replaced too. So that's good. Because you can see where the gear is mangled there. Okay, very good. I will, I'm going to move this stuff over to here and get these pieces off, and all these seals and stuff. I'm not sure which ones I have to remove yet, but everything else looks to be okay. Yeah, look at that. See there? So you're supposed to seal this with gasket material, but this channel from here all the way over, I was looking at it on this side and it looked okay. Maybe a little up here, but look at that. That is definitely stopping some oil flow there. That was just resting down in there. Okay. Alright, so here's the new half. I'm going to try to keep this organized here, and as I take pieces off, I'll just directly replace them, right? Using out of these two axle pieces here on each end. I think that's a pre-assembly part, so I can probably go ahead and take off the old bearings and all that good stuff, replace these gears, and put them directly on. The same thing up here, all this stuff, I'll get the oil seals to put where they need to be. Same thing here, I'll just work my way down. With these pieces I can just directly put on. This piece I'll take off, and hopefully no special tool is needed to extract this gear here. Yeah, so that's the plan. I'm going to put in all the seals, all this stuff, pre-assemble the axles, put those on, and work my way down. Alright, so here's the axle. So the pre-assembly, I'm supposed to put this bearing and this bearing on, and then reuse the seal and the hub and the bolt there and the washer, and reuse that. So let's put that together. There we go. Alright, let's see if we can get that on. So you see what I'm trying to do, but I might have to run off and put this in a vise. And we can pull this hub off. There we go. Okay, so let's put the bearings on this one. And we can finish this off. And there's a bag of bearings. Looks like so looks like I'm gonna have to take this maybe that's a little better. So the bearings are on, and we put the oil seal, and I believe this is one that came in the pack, a replacement seal. And how did that go in? It went in here. There's the bearing. Okay, so there's where the seal goes. Here's the pack of, must be these two. Well, it doesn't fit too snug, does it? These two fit pretty tight. This one kind of small. Oh, it goes on the new one. Let's see. Nope, same thing. It's kind of. All right. So looking at, this is the bag of oil seals and O-rings, and I think those two are missing. Because looking at the deal, just counting how many oil seals are in there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 4 O-rings. So, well, there's the 4 O-rings, but there's only 4 oil seals, not 6. So I'm assuming it's these two here on the ends are missing. Alright, so we slide the hub on. I'm just going to hand tighten it for now. Alright. Let's do the other side. Wrong one. This is supposed to go on the new one, right? Slap me next time, man. There we go. Okay, next. The 42T gear shaft. That's this piece right here. Install the 42T gear collar onto the 42T gear shaft and install the ball bearing in position. Okay, so alright, so here's the pieces. This bushing goes there. This bushing sits here. See how that slides in. This bearing fits right in here, so I'll need to press this bearing into place. Let me go press this in and I'll be right back. Okay, a different camera angle here. So I think most of my stuff I'm just going to be taking pieces off of the old build and putting it in place here. One more thing to watch out for. Let me show you what I ran into here. So I was test fitting everything here. So you put the bushing in place. You can see where that slides in. This bushing's in place. Well, the deal when you're pressing this bearing in, there's no stop. Make sure you measure off this distance right here. You can see how much wider it is right here. On this one, it's pressed pretty far in. I've already had to try to back it out a little bit, because if you seat that against there, see that little node right there? Your gear will hit that and cause a few. See, it's just almost on it. I'm going to try to back this out a little more, you know, because I don't want it to hit that node, plus I want it to line up where it should be on your gear here. So I think I need to come out a little bit more. So beware, there is no stop on this. When you start pressing that sucker on, it'll go all the way and seat against it. Luckily I caught it before it did, you know, so I'm still able to grab it and pull it out a little bit. Okay, that looks to be okay. That's just a test fit. I haven't taken anything off of here yet, but I think I'm just going to start transferring these input and output gears and shafts in place, because the oil seals needed on these are actually going on the front half. So these just insert. Go. Now this piece had a couple of shims on it, but it looks like it's yeah, looks like it aligned pretty perfect. So alright, so let's see how these come off. Looks like the whole thing's just going to lift up, right? There we go. Let's put this on. Alright, that side went in pretty good. What worries me you can see how the shaft broke down in there. in that spline, and this bearing is just shot, and this whole gear is shot. But this is not a part that was included on the rebuild kit. Who'd have guessed, huh? Yeah, so you can see how that's, those swirl marks, that's from it grinding away. And if you look inside, the inside here is all cracked up. So I got to see if I can punch this part of this broken shaft. I'm going to see if I can punch that out. If that goes in there like that, the only thing I'll be missing is the bearing, right? But I can measure this one off, and maybe I'm lucky. I mean, I have a few bearings in the shop in my garage. Just out of a stroke of luck, maybe I have one to fit. Okay, so I was studying the diagram here, and I'm going to backtrack. Let me show you what this is. So I was looking for the oil seal right here. This is the old one, and I was going to reuse it because I could not find the right oil seal to fit on there. This was just way too small. But on the instructions, it gives no clue that they are using a collar and a seal now, and this fits in. So that takes up that gap that I was worried about. So luckily I went through and started referencing parts, you know, just to make sure what was there, make sure there's no other part here that I can replace. But so I'm going to take these off, take the old oil seal off, and replace it with the seal and the collar, and that should do it. Alright, so I got it out of there. You can tell it's pretty mauled up, but I was able to stick a socket under there and just hammer it out. There's the pieces. So that's the end piece of that shaft. So at least I got it out. See if I can salvage this part. I think it'll still work if I can find the bearing to fit over this. I need to pull this part of the bearing. This is the inner race. I need to pull that out. But that gear, the teeth on there are pretty mauled up. Yep, all I need is the bearing now. Alright. I'm gonna go look in my box of goodies and see if I can find a proper bearing. Alright, so we had a couple of days of rain here, so that gave me a chance to get the bearing that we needed. I went and pulled the inner race off and then pressed this bearing on. There we go. And should be able to slide this on and have it set in and done, and then we can start reassembling the rest of this. Alright, looks like it's got it. One thing it did specify, if you'll notice here, if you can see that from there, you can see the split on the bushings. They want it facing the front of the case. And I guess that's when you clamp it down. There's not going to be any seam, you know, up around the... Yeah, so one thing I'm just worried about, of course it's on this side. You can see the way the gears are mangled there, plus you can see how this little bevel here, it has just it wore a groove with everything grinding away on it. This side is still in good shape, and it runs pretty smooth across that little lever. Now I'm just assuming the lever here, so when you're turning, and you can see the way this turns back and forth with those cables, it mashes the clutch pack in and disengages it. And the same thing on this side. So this side, I'm hoping still going to work okay. The rest of this, I just need to press the oil seals onto the front half of it, the oil seals that correspond with the input and the PTO shafts. I think I'm supposed to start putting the hydrostatic unit back on the rear. If that's so, yeah, that might be something I rushed into. At least everything here I know is now working, but I think I might have to put the hydrostatic on the rear end first and then come back and place all this stuff in, you know. So I might have to backtrack myself, but no problem. But it should go on just like I took it off, you know, just put that moment on there. The other thing they were saying, yeah, I need to add some gasket material back around the oil seal here. You know, we'll just put everything back together, and you can see where we put the liquid gasket stuff on there. We'll do the same thing here, and just watch out and don't let this overflow into this channel. This channel is actually an oil flow channel. You can see it going all the way down to here. So that might be why this side failed as quick as it did, because it looks like this was stopped up here, and you see it going down. It closed up here, and it closed up here too. So there wasn't enough oil getting down to this side of the case. That's just my take on it, but I could be wrong, because I'm kind of I keep, you know, I'll just speak my mind still, but I'm kind of surprised with the rebuild kit. You know, they're supposed to be replacing a lot of bushings and bearings and stuff like that. And it's like, well, I could see that, or replaced, you know, these gears and then the bearing here, this gear, put a new bearing on, but it's identical to what I took off, right? I looked at the type of bearings when I was looking this one up. I wonder if this one had already been worked on and they already replaced everything, because all this stuff looks in good shape except for this end, and it might have been because of the lack of oil, right? But everything else is exactly the same as what I took off. And everything else, the way it wasn't performing, of course, this broke, the cable broke for this side, and what else? The front shaft, you know, sticking out this way, the drive shaft was off of it. I mean, so no wonder it wasn't performing. I mean, we had no shaft, no front drive shaft going to the front. We had this one wheel not engaging and a broken cable. As far as I know, I think the PTO is good, but we're about to find out. So I'm just going to reassemble this and hopefully get all this stuff put on in the next day or so. Alright, so there's 2 bolts and 2 nuts left over, and I looked around and it looks like right here on the old one it is not present on the new one. You see that? You can see the rib that comes across right here in place of that nut. So you are going to have 2 left over. Okay, now we've got to modify the frame. And you can see here it says, so elongate the 2 holes of the 10.5 millimeter in diameter in the frame is shown in the figure. So it is this hole and on the other side We just have to elongate the hole, slot it. I think I can probably just drill a hole through there. And it looks like it's 6 millimeters from the center line up to here. So apparently this one hasn't been reworked. I thought it was, but maybe not. But you can see where here's the 2 holes right here. And remember, this is the spot here where that extra bolt and nut went, and now it's just a rib going across. But so this was moved up, and you can see the difference on this, on the older one here. So that was done away with, and then this was moved up a bit. And let's see if we can mark a little punch here. Alright, so I got the holes elongated, and I must say that that was the biggest pain in the butt so far on this whole process. It's the end of the day, but some parts just came in. We got the cable, for the glide steer, then the UDT2, and the filter. Alright. So, looking at the cable, you can see it's disconnected here. Just wire tied along with the rest of this. And it's connected right up here. So you can see which side goes where. That has a larger diameter. It goes to the front, and the smaller one goes to the rear. So let's swap them.
Come on, kitty kitty.
Alright, so I just put some gas in it, and I'm going to crank it up, let it warm up, and I don't know if it needs to build up pressure for all the hydrostatic and all the hydraulics on it, power steering, all that good stuff. But I'm going to warm it up and lightly tap on it and see if it'll go back and forth. Trying. Alright, so it cranked up and I just inched it back and forth. Didn't want to stress it too bad. I was listening to the rear end turn as I went, and it's pretty silent, right? Didn't hear any clanking, no squealing, anything like that, so I guess that's good news. I'm going to wait till tomorrow morning and clear out some of my mess over here and see if we can roll it around. I want to do a tight turn. I want to see what the cables are doing under there. Yeah, I just want to get a more thorough test. But so far, thumbs up. All right. It's the next morning, and I kind of cleaned up around here, at least to, move some stuff around out of the way. But yeah, a lot of cleanup to do. But it's looking good. I think one of the tires, it deflates just within a matter of hours. So I'll either put a tube or just put a new tire on it. But check the hydraulic fluid, and it was a little low. I figured, once I started rolling it around, get all the air bubbles out of the transaxle. So I put almost the rest of that gallon of the UDT, the Super UDT2, and it brought it back up to the level, and I'll check it again, of course. But I didn't see any leaks overnight. That's good. Yeah, one thing I noticed, that the Super UDT2, it looks like it had a thinner viscosity than what I drained out of there. So I think that'll help a little bit too, getting the right fluid in. So the big thing, I know I just inched it back and forth, but I'm going to give it a little more in-depth test. I'm going to drive it around, and I want to see what these cables do. It'll be hard to see unless I get somebody out there to take a look for me while I turn the wheel. I want to see make sure everything's compressing on the clutch pack on each side of the transaxle. That controls, for the glide steer. I want to make sure, but I can see, it's a tight clutch pack. There's a lot of force pulling that thing off, and I can see why these cables are breaking. Just on a quick, look on forums and stuff, it looks like they switched from the cables over to bars, just like the bars going back for the brake and all that stuff.
And I haven't seen it, but it looks like that's what they did, and for good reason it looks like. But oh, what else? On the Transaxle, and this one kind of confused me. So there's the new casing and all that good stuff, but you can see when I took that old one apart, in the manual where the gearing here was replaced, and in the manual it's showing where it had bushings instead of bearings, and to replace them. And it looks like, well, this was already replaced. I took this stuff out and the bearings were replaced, but in the Transaxle kit they put different seals up here. The bearings were the same, and this old case must have stayed the same because this frame was not modified. So apparently they did these rebuilds in a couple of different stages. You know, I guess the first fix was just replacing the bearings, and they kept all the same, everything else. And it might have worked, but I think that oil channel that runs along and feeds this side with oil was clogged, and that's why all this, you know, the bearings were shot and banged up, because there's no oil coming down that channel. But now the current rebuild kit replaces all that stuff, the bearings, changing the frame where they changed the bolt pattern there. What else? I wish they would have considered changing the bearings on the clutch packs on each side and the gearing on it, because that was shot. This is going to be the weak point on this one, right? That's why I wanted to pay close attention to this cable and make sure it's operating like it should. The only thing left to do, this is the PTO, and remember, that's where the PTO bar was busted here, and I'm still waiting for that part. So I'll run it. I mean, it'll run, I just won't be able to engage the PTO. It's sitting here. It'll just be hanging there until I can get that bar. And I have not heard word from them, so what I could do, here's part of the bar. I forget where the other part is. Oh, it's still hanging on there, but you can see it's just this threaded rod, and it goes up, you know, whatever length that is, with the 90-degree bend on it, and able to put the clip on there to hold it. So maybe I'll fabricate one myself for time being. Yeah, just like this. I'll just have to bend the end of it and be able to put the clip on that. I bent this up a little bit, so maybe I can loosen it up and try to bend everything back into shape. But little cosmetic stuff. So there's probably going to be a part 3, and that's when I fix the PTO. Of course, the hood, I got to figure out what I'm going to do with the hood. Should I try to repair it, modify it, whatever? I'm sure they're very expensive trying to replace those things. And the mowing deck looks in really good shape. I can go on the other side, you know, everything's spinning. There's no problems with the spindles. Everything turns like it should. I guess the biggest thing I need to do is make sure everything's greased up. And the same over here. I noticed a lot of grease points that I probably would have overlooked, but I'll go through the manual now and make sure I get everything with the drive shaft under there. Those little shafts where the cable rotates. There's little Zerk fittings on that. There's Zerk fittings up here on the front. I mean, there's actually quite a bit. Alright, so I'm just going to drive this thing around and give it a good test. Make sure everything's working properly. And I guess that's it. So thanks again for watching. Be sure to subscribe and watch from the next video. We've got a lot going on. We'll have part 3, finalizing this thing, and a lot of projects around here. Who knows? Maybe I'll work on that John Deere. I haven't even given it a good look over yet. Just picked it up. Maybe work on the Suzuki Carry. Got a little scooter over there. What else? A lot of rebuilds there that, yeah, who knows? Okay, so
I'm gonna go right around.